Welcome to this episode of Pen to Paper Press Podcast. I'm Cindy Kochis. There's a backstory weaved into each book we write. To explore the creative journey, I normally sit down with writers, authors, editors, publishers, and an array of creative souls to have a conversation centered on how they develop their stories to completing their works of art. The intent, as you know, is for each episode to provide an opportunity for us to explore mindsets, pearls of wisdom, and the experiences that set them on their creative path as an author from the moment they put pen to paper. I have a question for you. What is it that's holding you back from writing? Let me rephrase that. What is holding you back from completing the first draft of your book? Is it time? Is it ambition? Is it the lack of commitment to finish the project? Or, like I mentioned last week, are you out of alignment with the content, the topic, or, the whole enchilada? It was while I was editing the Writer's Journey Out of Alignment episode, I realized, for one, how out of alignment I am with that book project that I mentioned. And two, I didn't offer any kind of solution. None. Nada. Zip. If anything, I danced and twirled around the idea of offering any kind of solution while hugging my poor dead plant from Texas, which, by the way, is still sitting on the plant stand next to me on the desk I am currently using. Yeah. The simple solution is to just do it. Pick up the pen, gently place it against the paper, and scribble out some words. Or rest your fingers on the keyboard and let them tap dance words, sentences, paragraphs, and chapters. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. We all get that. It's like, duh, hello. So, like I typically do in podcast conversations, I'm going to use me as an example. And by the way, I use me as an example because I don't want someone to think I'm talking about them in a harmful way and feel that I'm not being kind to them, or that I'm purposely trying to make them look bad in front of my audience. That's not the case at all. And yeah, go figure, I'm rambling. It is easy to say, I'm going to do XYZ, right? It's really easy. It's another thing to actually do it. For one, life happens. We get distracted. The dog needs to be let outside. The closet needs to be organized right this minute. I know, you get the picture. For me, the well-rehearsed ramblings that goes, something like this. I simply ran out of time, or this is the one that I find myself saying the most often. Time got away from me, and the next thing I knew, it was 10 o'clock, and I just wanted to go to sleep. That one happens a lot, and it seems to be that mantra. Instead of it being an excuse, it's more of a mantra, which, when you continue to repeat those things, what are you doing? You're putting that out into the universe, and it becomes a manifestation. Possible reasons for not writing. And I took some time and I thought this out, and I want to share some possible reasons for not writing, and using lack of time for an excuse, including feeling overwhelmed with the written project. We are not in alignment with a particular with a particular project, which is what I spoke about in episode 57 last week. We're not sure how to move the project forward, which can be because we don't know the backstory of our characters, or where they're going. What is the plot twist? Or is there one? Is there two? Is there 30? Hopefully not 30. That's another podcast episode for another day. and we don't know where they're going. It can be because we have already found ourselves wandering down, dark alleys and stepping hip deep into a swamp that appeared out of nowhere when we were looking back over our shoulder at where we've already been instead of looking where we were going. In my situation, I didn't have a solid foundation or the scaffolding built up on an arc. A pivot point or where the plot twist happens. Yes, a mind, body, spirit written project, a book, how to live a healthier life book can have a plot twist or two. After all, isn't that what makes life, challenging and how we make our life changes is when something happens that causes us to change. Or, here's another reason that sends my head spinning. There's a million ideas rattling around in my noggin. That shiny object that, I gotta investigate that. And then I sink my creative teeth into it. The question, which ones are worth exploring? Heck, what do I want to share with the audience? So the list of why, me, why I'm not writing is bountiful. And the excuses have, they've been scattered like candy across Main Street, kind of sort of aimed at the crowd waiting for the metaphoric 4th of July parade and to collect all the goodies. Truly, that is how we want, is that how we want to communicate with our audience? The crowd is asking, just like you are right now, what is the point of all of this scattered, unorganized stuff that, when compiled, makes no sense at all? And by the way, if you can hear it, it is raining pretty hard, and that is the background noise. So far, the dogs have not barked. Yay! All right, so did you catch that? One of the reasons that we can feel miscombobulated with our written project is being out of sync, organization. In my situation, I'm not organized. The first draft content, as I mentioned in episode 57, for the Mind, Body, Spirit book, consists of well-crafted paragraphs and chapters in the beginning. And, when that slowly transformed into layers upon layers of thoughts, as the steam of inspiration fizzled and evaporated, in the end, that project is just that. It was, the last half of what I have written down is literally thoughts that are clumped together. There's no organization. There's no roadway. There's no map. So here's the dilemma for those of us who thrive on being organized, like me, and yet, your writing style is pantser. The writer who writes by the seat of their pants. No plan, no map, no navigation device. A pantser sits down at the keyboard or notebook and writes what comes to them. Again, there's no navigation. There's no laid out journey. Nobody's plotted out where the destination point is. That is a pantser, and that's how I tend to write. I tend to just sit down and let the story lead the way. I believe it was in my conversation I had with Liz Merritts in episode number 24, titled How to Organize Your Time and Manage an Outline, that we spoke of pantsers. Liz is a brilliant young woman. If you're having issues with being organized, determining a plan of action for time management, and what really is time management and creating an outline for your book, I highly recommend you listen to that conversation. You're sure to gain some insight that truly you're looking for and will help provide you with those solutions. Here's a quote from Liz that I captured from our conversation and posted on the show notes page. I'm going to read that to you. Everything in life is a project. These tools can be applied to your book production and to a project you're working on. I think a lot of people think project managers are as being type A, rigid people. If you are becoming a project manager for the sake of the project in your life, just realize the very project managers are those people who appreciate structure and form and can stray from it when they have to. I think that will be a huge differentiating factor in the completion rates of your books. As she shared, you can break down any project into bite-sized pieces. That is the purpose of an outline. That is the purpose of doing the time management. Breaking down how many words you want to have written, what you're estimating right now, and then breaking it down so that you have like daily goals. I want to write 2,000 words to, each day, and how many, how long is that going to take you? So let's start with, what do you feel in this moment to be the point of your story? Don't worry, odds are this will change. The point isn't to have a rigid plan, but one that withstands the winds of change. How do you feel about how the book will end? When you're right now, in this moment, when you close your eyes, how do you see it ending? Maybe this would be a great time to grab a notebook and write these questions down. Since a fair number of listeners are doing something active like walking, driving, or, cleaning the closet, simply ponder the following questions. Allow them to plant that seed into your thought. And who knows, maybe the next time you take a shower or do the dishes or whatever, when your mind is empty and this is when the answers just come to you, when, your mind's at rest and you're not consumed with, our daily looping thoughts of gotta do or whatever. Anyways, wandering. What do you feel, again, in this moment? Remember, we're not looking at the future book or how it will turn out necessarily. We are looking at the project where we are right now, right in this very moment. What do you feel the point of the story is? How would you like the book to end? What is your starting point? What are your characters doing? Heck, who are your characters? Do you even know them? Do you know their personality traits? When you close your eyes, do you see the storyline play out in your mind? If you do, write it down in the moment you see it, because otherwise it could be gone later when you go to write it. Or you could use your phone to either record the insights you receive or use the dictation app, and have it write it out for you in a document. Here's another question. Who causes the chaos? When does the impact of the drama happen? And what happens? Who's involved? And leave some danglers and fill in some of those gaps later into the storyline. Remember, you want to open a loop of conversation and things that are going to happen that you will close later. Because remember, the point of writing a book is not to give all the answers away in chapter 3. You want them to keep reading and, oh, I got to find out what happens to Sally and blah, blah, blah. Who is the person who is fixing everything? And who is the one who tries to undo it all? Because, of course, you have your antagonist and protagonist. So now that these ideas are rolling, take a blank sheet of paper or a napkin at the coffee shop. And when you're parked and not driving, please don't do this when you're driving. Take one of the receipts that you've tossed into the cup holder of the console of the vehicle you're driving. No, that you're parked in. And write chapter 1. Under that, write what you imagine what you imagine is happening in that chapter. But do it in a bullet point fashion. Remember, this isn't about writing the book right now. It's about building a structure, the foundation for chapters and continuing, from chapter to chapter to chapter. Give yourself a little space, then write chapter 2. Again, in bullet point, highlight the events of this chapter. Only write who, what, when, where, and how information. Don't fill in the blanks, because that's not what we're doing right now. So continue doing this until you feel that you've reached the tentative end of the storyline. In episode, I almost said chapter, and it's not a chapter, it's an episode. In episode number 6, it's titled A Journey Guided by Love, Loss, and a Pen. In that conversation with Sarah Wall, her and I talked about her process for outlining the content of both of her books. But here's the key about how she planned her second book. The final product, that final book, looks absolutely nothing, not a bit like the initial outline. Her book went through a complete transformation. But here's the key. She was willing to let it happen. If you feel stuck, or that your outline has to be, this has to be how it is, it would benefit you greatly to listen to her creative journey. She even shared how she whittled over 10 years, yes, 10 years worth of journal entries into 11 chapters and used it to guide her memoir, outline. If you're feeling you want to get to know your characters better, here's a suggestion. In episode 20, titled Meet a Character Guided Meditation, there is, like the title says, a short guided meditation to introduce you to one of your characters. Also, if you want to explore this a little further, at pen2paperwriterscircle.com, again, I'll say that again, pen2paperwriterscircle.com, and I'll have the link in the show notes. There is both a free and paid version for Meet Your Characters guided meditations to assist you with, the creative expansion process of meeting your characters, getting to know them. And, the paid version is titled Get to Know Their Secrets, because that is something that is beneficial. Not that you're going to write all about their secrets or anything like that, but it gives you those juicy niblets, again, for playing things and pivoting and building that storyline about, what solution they're doing or what actions they're doing and who's going to undo, and it helps you to understand more of why are they doing this, and how can you work off of this, how can you broaden the story and add more interest, because again, You want your audience interested, right? The benefit of having an outline is to help you stay on track and reduce the number of times you wander down a dead-end road. Again, remember that finding yourself hip deep in muck that I mentioned earlier? Been there, done that, stepped in it way too many times. Don't even want to go there. Although those sometimes, they don't pan out, it does sometimes, it takes a story on an unforeseen journey. And since you've planned out the journey, that outline will save you time. But again, if you do find yourself taking that, unforeseen journey, and it feels good and it feels right, and you want to explore it, explore it. Don't hold yourself back from that, because again, that could be a plot twist that ooh, didn't see that one coming. Which, if you don't see it coming, your audience, you know what? They're not going to see it coming either. And who wants to write the same book that everybody else has? There's not meant to be. I'm going to word it differently. Everybody's life is different. Everybody has similar experiences, but yet we really don't. Because of perceptions and reactions and so forth. Don't follow the cookie cutter. Don't stamp out the same book as everybody else. So that's where those wandering down, off the adventurous, path and going in some random direction, that's how that can provide you that benefit. Because again, if you don't see the plot twist coming, or you don't see that adventure coming, your audience isn't either. And that is what's going to make your book, even more special. All right. So, I've wandered a little bit. If things don't come easy, and I want to share this pearl of wisdom with you. Years ago, the first 3 chapters of a book literally poured out of me, and I wrote it in 45 minutes. And basically, I channeled it in. It hardly needed any editing. It was just so specific and spot on. And then nothing. Literally. Nada. And years later, literally, in the shower Saturday or Sunday, the purpose or, the point of the story came to me. So what did I do? I wrote the flow of the storyline in outline format, because I knew that if I tried to just sit down and write out the story, write the actual story, that I would lose the last half of what I was seeing and I was understanding. So I took it and in bullet point format, I wrote out this is what's going to happen. This is who's in it. And this is the direction that I saw it at that time. And so I made an outline. It's a sloppy outline, but it's an outline. And you know what? Again, as I've said a million times, there is no right way. There is no wrong way. It's your way. It's what feels comfortable to you. You can find all of these sources out there that tells you how to do X, Y, Z, and this is the way to do it. If you don't resonate with it, it's just not going to work for you. I can tell you that one. So, because that little rebellion in me says, yeah, no. So then, as time allots, I will fill in the gaps of the actual story. And that will be my first draft. I will fill in the conversations. I will fill in who, what, when, where, what happens. I will because I have the baseline and I can see where things are going to flow. All right. So, having the outline is beneficial, but it's not a must. If you are still somebody who is a pantser, please follow that rhythm. Again, I'm not telling you how to do anything. I'm just offering some insights and a little bit of guidance. If somebody feels that they, are feeling a little lost and curious about how other people do it, that's the whole entire purpose of Pen to Paper Press podcast, is to show how somebody did the writing process, how they wandered the journey. Because that backstory of how it was done inspires somebody who's like, oh, what do I do? But it's not the rule book. There are no rule books. Well, there are. I mean, truly, there are some rule books that are really good idea to follow, such as grammar. Please follow the grammar rules, punctuation rules, consistency. Consistency. That is something, as someone who has that organized mind, but yet is a pantser, you got to have the consistency, because people will spot where you're inconsistent and it'll throw them off, and good chance they'll close your book and they'll be like, yep, nope, not going to finish that one. So anyways, I'm now getting to the point where I'm rambling, and that's not what you're here to listen to. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. Anyways, so before we end our time together, I'd like to say thank you for, again, listening to me rambling on about, outlines this time. To receive future episodes in your inbox. And truly, I find email to be my favorite way to communicate. I'm not someone who enjoys social media, so I'm really lax there. I don't promote, yes, I promote the podcast on social media. I do that, but I don't do it in a way that I really should, and I know that. So if you don't want to miss an episode, please subscribe to the newsletter and, follow us. Find us on your favorite podcast application and click the little icon that says follow, because then you'll get the notification each time a new podcast episode is published. So, all right, take care. And until next time, keep your pen to paper and write. Your words have power, and your story matters. Bye for now.